What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Tuesday, September 8th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. Let's take a look at this two-game main slate. So at the point guard position, I like Eric Bledsoe from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing point guards. Eric Bledsoe has averaged 30.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He scored 34 fantasy points in 39 minutes last game. Remember, Giannis got hurt, so that's going to increase the minutes and the usage of these other Milwaukee Bucks players. Eric Bledsoe is projected at 30.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.8 times value. He's $5,200 FanDuel salary and $1,000 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 218 points scored in this game. So I like Eric Bledsoe here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, now this next play is a DraftKings play only for me. I like Rajon Rondo from the LA Lakers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Rajon Rondo has averaged 18.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 21 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. But take a look at his last two games. He scored 41 and 23 fantasy points in 28 and 24 minutes. He's projected at 25.2 fantasy points here tonight. Now that's only 4.1 times value on FanDuel because they jacked his price way up to $6,200. But on DraftKings, he's $2,300 less. So a fantastic DraftKings price. He's a lock for me over there on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 223.5 points scored in this game. So I like Rajon Rondo here versus the Houston Rockets. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like James Harden from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. James Harden has averaged 57.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 37 minutes per game with a 36% usage rate. He's projected at 53.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's $10,800 FanDuel salary and $200 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 223.5 points scored in this game, so I like James Harden here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, the other shooting guard that I like is Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. Chris Middleton has averaged 35.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He's been playing really well in the playoffs. He scored 60, 41, and 39 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's projected at 41.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's $8,000 FanDuel salary and $600 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 218 points scored in this game, so I like Chris Middleton here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like LeBron James from the LA Lakers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. LeBron James has averaged 51.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 32% usage rate. He scored 66, 42, and 64 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's projected at 53 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.8 times value. But you know he's got that 60-plus point fantasy upside any game that he's on the court. He's 11,100 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. So I like LeBron James here versus the Houston Rockets. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, the next small forward that I think this is a solid mid-range play here. It's Eric Gordon from the Houston Rockets playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, but they give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Eric Gordon has averaged 20.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 29, 31, and 29 fantasy points in 36, 34, and 36 minutes. So this guy's been on fire, been extremely productive, getting monster minutes. He's projected at 27.4 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.1 times value. He's 5,400 FanDuel salary and 500 more on DraftKings. So I like Eric Gordon here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing power forwards. Bam Adebayo has averaged 40.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 21% usage rate. But let's take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 54, 48, and 31 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 43, 35, and 32 minutes. He's projected at 39.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.6 times value, but you know he's got that 45 to 50 plus point fantasy upside, so he can get you 5 times value or more. He's 8,500 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. So I like Bam Adebayo here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, if you're looking for a value play here at the power forward position, take a look at Kyle Kuzma from the LA Lakers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Kyle Kuzma has averaged 21.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. Now, he was in a little foul trouble last game, but he still managed to put up 24 fantasy points in 20 minutes. He's projected at 21.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. He's 4,600 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. So I like Kyle Kuzma here versus the Houston Rockets. Okay, let's take a look at the center position. I like Anthony Davis from the LA Lakers playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Anthony Davis has averaged 50.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. He's projected at 53.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. But let's take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 53, 58, and 62 fantasy points, playing 36, 37, and 36 minutes. He's 11,400 FanDuel salary and 800 less on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. So I like Anthony Davis here versus the Houston Rockets. And the other center I like is Brook Lopez from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing centers. Brook Lopez has averaged 27.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. But he scored 29, 35, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 29.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 5,800 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. So I like Brook Lopez here versus the Miami Heat. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.